We'll have with us here in the studio Victor Giwa, who is the National Coordinator, Advocates for People's Rights and Justice, and Principal Partner, Victor Giwa and Associates. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so do you agree with the Vice President? In that report you were listening to, do you agree with the Vice President that corruption could be seen as a crime against humanity?
Well, it depends. Actually, corruption for Nigeria, it is, when you say crime against humanity, it has to be a crime that has been specifically identified and resolved either by the international court, to be a crime against humanity. But in some quarters, because of the effect of corruption on the entire system, of certain nations, some people have tended to elevate, corruption as a crime against humanity because, of course, particularly in Nigeria, where you have corruption, you have poor health facility, you have bad road, you have no school, and at the end of the day, it has direct bearing on the lives of people. I mean, the money you are supposed to use to equip hospitals is in somebody's pocket, and people who are ill, people who are supposed to be enjoying medical facilities, they get to those hospitals, and of course, they don't have something to keep them alive. Of course, you have affected lives. So people see that as a crime against humanity. But in general, corruption cannot be categorized as a crime against humanity. So people have, elevated it to that.
Where do you stand?
My own take is that corruption depends on the status, because corruption is a creation of the law. There are some places where corruption is defined as maybe a crime, just like in Nigeria, bribery, because it has various cells. But I think that corruption is very bad. It's a crime that we should fight, but it is not a crime against humanity. I don't think so. Okay.
Well, so looking at what has been going on in the judiciary, where some people say that now it was seen that the DSS has forced the NJC to wake up. What were your thoughts when you saw that initial raid by the DSS on some judges? Did you see it coming?
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, I got a call around 2 a.m. on the 8th of October from a friend. So when I saw the call in 2 a.m., I was wondering why this guy, a lawyer friend of mine, would have been putting that call. Then he told me, he said, look, Victor, as I'm talking to you right now, I'm in somewhere in Apple, and that what he sees right now is about 6 trucks of members of the DSS. Some of them, were masked, and they were in the premises of, Honorable Justice Ademola. Honorable Justice Ademola shares the same boundary with Honorable Justice Dimba. And we rushed there, and of course, I was thinking that maybe they were protecting these honorable justices, because I was thinking that maybe terrorists, Boko Haram, were, targeting these persons.
So you were there that night?
Yes, and then in the morning, the next day, 9 a.m., we also got there, and of course, at that point, because we had to go back, that was 2 a.m., and we saw the fact that it was just, they were the real targets. Because when we asked them, they were not ready to say anything to us. They were like, no, they will not be able to speak to us. They had, and we were like, wow. So we had to go, I have to personally go back in the morning.
So you were able to approach the premises?
Yes, we did. Well, we were there.
Yourself and your friend, or just you?
No, myself, my friends, a lot of lawyers, of course, these persons were working in law firms before. Some of these judges had, colleagues in there, and they have to put this call across to them. Now, the point is, and when we got there, like your question, we were very shocked. I personally was shocked because, firstly, I need to ask myself what exactly could be the issue. In short, I was very, very saddened that the DSS, which I thought were coming to protect this person, came to actually arrest them. And I went back to ask myself, why on earth will the DSS, not only the fact that they came to arrest them, but the manner at which they effected the arrest. They did it as if they contemplated a very strong resistance. They contemplated that these guys would be having some armed person within the premises. They contemplated that there could be some thugs who were going to resist them. They contemplated that there were going to be some persons who had more weapons, to match them. And we were wondering that, no matter how bad it is, these guys, you could just arrest them without even coming in that manner. Then the next question that we must interrogate, I've had a lot of people talk about, the DSS have power, the DSS can arrest, make arrests. And with due respect to these various persons and senior lawyers, I beg to disagree. Now, a lot of people have mentioned the National Security Agency Act, and I said, let us just look at it. Let us first of all look at Section 2 that establishes the various agencies. Section 2, subsection 1 says that there shall be the Defense Intelligence Agency, A, 2, National Defense Intelligence, and C, the State Security Service. Now, if you look at the first, Defense Intelligence Agency, National Intelligence Agency, and the State Security Service, you will now discover that the purpose of having that particular agency could be for intelligence. Because you cannot say, I'm giving you a saloon car, I'm giving you a Mercedes-Benz, and I'm giving you a tractor. It should be within that genre, that generic, So the point is that the third agency should be an intelligence gathering agency. Now let us go outside Section 2. Let us talk about Section 3 that says, it shall be the duty of the State Security Service to A, protect and detect any crime against internal security. B said to preserve and protect classified matter concerning internal security. Then C now said the responsibility concerning internal security that the President or the National Assembly may think necessary. And I was asking myself, how come the DSS will say they raided the judges' homes on the offense of corruption? Because when you look at the statement of Galba Abdullahi, the spokesman for DSS, they said their raid was a sting operation. It was as a result of corruption and bribery and professional misconduct. The question is, corruption, bribery, how do they fall into internal security? Section 2, subsection 1 of the ICPC Act defines corruption to include bribery.
Some people will say that these are externalities to the substance, because we can always go to court and argue, whether or not the DSS had the right, whether they should have, but it doesn't take away the major question as to whether or not these people committed the offenses that they have been alleged to have committed. What do you make of that? That these allegations can even come against judges in the very first instance? Okay,
firstly, in talking about whether or not the judges are culpable, whether they did commit the offense, that is a subject I cannot or anybody would really talk about, because those are issues that the court will determine. It's only the court, maybe the NJC, because they have the power to establish if there's a prima facie case, established against this person. So whether or not they did commit the offense is subject to what the court will decide. But like I was saying, I said the fallacy of this argument that, let us forget about the activities of the DSS is that we have not been able to establish the balance between the fight against corruption and the protection of institutional democracy. While the fight against corruption can be fought and won, the protection of institutional democracy must be protected at all costs. Because when we fight and win corruption and we lose the institutional democracy, we will be reverting back to the status quo. Because at the end of the day, the persons who you are saying are corrupt must be taken to the judiciary. It is only the judiciary, which is a major institution in the democracy, that can establish whether or not somebody has actually committed an offense. It's the judiciary that will determine whether somebody's rights have been abused. It's the judiciary that will tell you whether the executive are carrying out their function according to the constitution, which is constitutionalism. So we must see that the fight against corruption must not override institutional democracy. And that is what we must protect at all costs. And that is the fallacy of the argument of whether or not they did commit the offense.